Hello everyone and welcome to the FX Masters program, lesson 16. I know that you'll be waiting for this one. This is the first lesson of this course that we're going to be talking about some actual avatar effects. So and I hope you find it interesting and I hope you find it exciting that we're still considering topics from intro, or not intro, but the first part of the my FX Power User Program 2017. We're still talking and using techniques from this level. We're starting to touch on the part 2 of the Dynamics Level 2 portion as well. But we consider it, still early on in the program, or yet, we are able to start creating effects from such a major film as this one, right? So you can see that. I hope that with this you understand and you realize that every little bit of information that I'm giving you, even at these early stages, is still quite powerful and useful. I personally created this shot, the tear that runs down the face of Neytiri on the production. It was towards the end. Those are the final shots that they call them the CBBs. The CBBs are the could be better. So it could be better if Neytiri has a tear, and it could be better if it's simulated instead of another technique. So if there is time towards the end of the production, then we're given the opportunity, as you become available, as you start, finishing shots, then you might get something coming your way. That way I got the horse on fire from Avatar as well, and I also got this tear, as well as other shots, so all of them, we're going to discuss them in the course in one way or the other. So the tear is something subtle. Like I said on the promotional material on Facebook, I said that sometimes the most subtle of effects and the most natural shots are the ones that are tricky, or they have a responsibility in a way that you have to make someone feel something. It's different, right? An explosion, people have seen it many times and they know what it looks like, and some have seen explosions in real life as well. And yeah, it's fine, but it's normal. But shots like this, I myself, I tend to like, and I tend to jump on these things as they become available, because I feel that it's a challenge for me, something simple. Something that we've seen in our lives many times, tears, and they have to convey some sort of emotion. It might seem like, to some, it might seem like something stupid or something simple. Yes, could be, but at the same time, if it's done wrong, such an important moment of the movie, it could be jeopardized by this. In Transformers, for example, you have hundreds of explosions, and yeah, one that doesn't look quite right, it's okay. Sometimes even the real ones look fake, so it could be all right. But in a situation like this, where you have a close-up of Neytiri after you've seen her suffer and live through the film, such an important moment as this, when she finally, well, not finally, but when she sees her, I'm being a bit poetic about this, but I'm just trying to, convey the importance of something like this, and why it's worth our time in the course, why it's worth your time in a film, and why, if the opportunity shows up to do something like it, don't shy away because you prefer to do something more common or more, these things to me as your instructor and as your, let's say, supervisor, or your prospective, or I'm just kind of like an honorary employer, let's say. I'm playing all those parts in this course. I will appreciate to see things like this. It shows me that you put in the effort, you put in detail onto these things, and it's a good topic of conversation in an interview. So this is the first time that she sees him, or she kind of shows her love, unconditional love for him. He's not an avatar form anymore. He's a human. He's vulnerable. I don't know if you remember the film, if you've seen it. but she's kind of holding him almost like a Pietà sculpture from Florence. It's almost like she's holding a little kid. She's compare in size. He's so small compared to her. Um, he touches her face. It's a close up of the interior. Those are quite brave moments for a director, for artists, for artists involved in this. Such a big close up with teary eyes, conveying an emotion. If this looks wrong at this particular point in the movie, where it's almost towards the end, that's actually the end of the film. Um, that's what people probably will take home with them in their mind. This goes wrong. Probably all the achievements that you accomplished throughout the film, almost 3 hours of film, I believe it lasts. It could go, sour just by having something, messed up at this particular moment. So to me, it seemed like yes, it's one tier. Actually, there's two tiers in my shot, one after the other. Very subtle. I simulated them a bit bigger and a bit more noticeable, assuming that, of course, and it's something that I told you so far in this course, is that you always have to assume that your effects will be toned down in composition and in lighting a little bit. Your actual simulations, it could happen. There's nothing wrong with effects team, nothing like that. No, it's just so we as effects guys, as effects artists, we tend to, obviously, is normal, to put all of our attention, all of our efforts into getting the best simulation, the most noticeable one. As you get into more and more time in this business, and you start getting more and more shots out there, you start caring less when you see the final product, because you probably see half of what you expected to see in some situations. I've had, especially in this film, in Avatar, I had waterfalls that, in my opinion, were gorgeous. They were so interesting, so much interesting motion and all, and they were sometimes toned down. And and those are, I'm taking exact words out of James Cameron's mouth towards me, and when I actually asked why certain waterfall, and I remember a particular case when Jake and the younger ones are climbing through the floating mountains towards the Banshee catching place, right? There is a shot where they're standing on this floating rock, and there's a waterfall behind them. My original waterfall, in my opinion, was 100 times better than what is on the film. And Cameron's words were like, he loved it, but it was very distracting. He wanted the attention, okay, in that particular time, to be on the actual characters, on the environment. But the waterfall was very interesting, but it was taking too much attention. The eye was going that way. So you have to deal with this. This is another advice that I give you as part of these courses. Remember that it's not just about simulation. Now I'm teaching how to live like an effects guy. So be ready for that. Okay, be ready for it. Be ready for your effects to be toned down a little, hidden, sometimes covered, sometimes blurred. Luckily for you, it will, hopefully, you're in a good studio with good compositing team, that it will have a particular reason, specific reason why to do that. And it's not because they just don't know how to comp it, or they don't know how to integrate it. That's a different story. In a situation like this one, these tiers were a little bit bigger. That's how we're going to run them in this test, okay? As usual, like I said before, I'd rather you to create a bit more and have it toned down afterwards than having to create something out of nothing, which is impossible. So it's easier to shrink it down, and probably once it gets blended into the environment, or into her face in this case, you may see it a little bit less, but it's there. Subtleties. Subtleties is what makes these movies stand out from the others. That's why Avatar was so successful as well, because we cared about every little bit of detail. Every pixel mattered to us. It was tiring, it was exhausting, it was such a long process, very painful, but the reward was worth it. Just minutes ago, actually, minutes ago. Right now it's 2:56 p.m. on November 8th, 2016. Okay, I'm in my home country of Venezuela. I'm living in a hotel at the moment, and they just came to fill in the minibar, right? The guy. I saw him looking at me kind of weird, like a lot. Not in a weird way, but you're saying that he was just kind of like staring at my computer, kind of looking, and kind of shy. And then his partner came in, the other guy working here, and he said, "You know what, Mr. Pages? It's just that he knows. He just Googled you yesterday. He saw your name on his file here in the hotel, and then he saw Avatar, and he's blown away. And actually, we saw it yesterday together. I haven't seen it. And wow, so amazing! This is 2016. We finished Avatar in 2009. All right, we're talking about 7 years almost. Actually, it's November now. We're finishing Avatar 7 years ago, and it still holds up. It still is an amazing film for most people. So it is like that. You get these kind of reactions. I worked on Harry Potter. I worked on many films, as you can see probably from my profile and my page. Um, but no film has gotten the attention and the love that this film got. And I have to agree because this is the only film that I put so much effort. And if everyone in my crew, my team, all 900 of us at Weta, work the same way with the same passion, then yes, that's why this movie is what it is. So again, coming back to the original topic, is a simple tear, and probably I don't know, competitors and all, whoever, haters, there's always someone out there will just trivialize it. That's fine. But I know you guys, if you're listening, because you're taking part of this course and you have put your trust in me, and then and you tend to listen what I say. These things matter, and matter sometimes even more than big ones. So it's a subtle thing, but you can feel in when you see her. You can feel, obviously this is the work of animators and lighters and many people. But I see this shot and I still enjoy it every time I see it at the end of the film. I don't know. The tear is on the screen for a second, probably, and you mostly see the trail that leaves behind. Um, but it will be a good opportunity to talk about certain topics that we haven't probably talked about. We're going to use Encloth for it. Some people have asked me throughout the years, and actually the day that I published this play blast, actually, which is right here, I'm going to have a loop so you can see it as I talk. So people ask me, did you simulate this with real flow? Did you simulate it with whatever? Nowadays, people will want to do it with Bifrost or whatever it's called. It's not necessary. Once again, it's important. Is conveying a feeling. Is a big part of the film. She cries. She cries for her dad, but this is a different cry, right? This is just the one tear is enough for her to say anything, right? 1,000 words, like they say. Excuse me if I'm being too, like I said, poetic about this thing, but it's just it's important. My point is, there was no need. There was no need for me. First of all, these are shots that you have to turn around in a day. You don't have much time for that. You have to, because the process and the schedule is just close to an end. These are, like I said, they call the CBBs. They could be better. We'll try to do as many as those as we can towards the end of the film. You have to, because the budget is, sometimes there's no budget for that, meaning that the all the money of this goes into her, the lighting, the environment, the interaction with the real hand, and so many things. But then they kind of dress in nice little touches like this one that they don't have the budget. They didn't budget a tear in this shot, right? They're not even charged for it. So they try to do it to improve the shot even more. So those are things that you have to do quickly. Also, from my perspective, you have to get these things done well and fast in order for you to get another one and another one. I did 133 different effects on Avatar in 1.5 years that I was there. Actually, I was 1.5 years and 1.5 years on Avatar and half a year and a day there still. So I was roughly about almost 2 years in there, a bit less than 2 years. I wasn't a year and a half on Avatar fully. I worked on Lovely Bones, I worked on Day the Earth to Still, and Avatar. Avatar was a solid year plus a little bit more. But I managed to do 133 effects, so I average about what? 10 effects a month? 10 effects a month, 4 weeks in a month, we're talking about what? 2.5 effects per week. That's astonishing. Actually, I think I was the one that did the most. And in my opinion, I didn't half-ass speaking the wrong way, but I didn't just ignore things, or I did everything right. I got everything approved. That's as simple as that, right? Um, because the way I work efficiently. I work, already my way of thinking. We were 24 artists on Avatar working, and out of the 24, 6 of us were asked to stay after the film was done, and we moved on working on the Adventures of Tintin, right? Um, so that shows you why. So once again, when I tell you these things, just that's money into the bank, like they say. Take it for what they are. They're real life experience advice. All right, cool. That's my usual introduction, my pep talk, like they say. Back to this. Okay, so we're gonna use end cloth for it. I would have rather probably used soft bodies for it, but in this case, you see, it's better to use end cloth. The technique is quite simple. This is a tear, by the way, that it had to react to their face. It's a dynamic tear. Someone else could have animated this by hand. Probably they will animate it. And some other films, depending on the budget. In this case, probably the animators were slammed, and they had a good effects artist available, and I took a shot at it. It had to be dynamic because she, if you see the shot, she has expression, and she goes from straight face, from sadness into a smile once he wakes up, and that's where the tear comes out. So the face is actually moving from one expression to another as the tear comes down. So the cheeks, okay, they move. She has muscles and things under her face, and she's also painted, as you can see on the right side. She's painted for war, and that actual paint is it is like a displacement, so it does have interaction. It goes over her face, so it's a real thing. So it had to move and change with her face. So it's better to simulate it and let the tear move naturally, right? It had to leave a trail. That's why I prepared the scene with the shot on the right side, and an actual tear from an actual human being on the left side. It's interesting to have that just to inspiration for, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Then you're going to receive help from the lighters, from the compers, especially in something done so quickly. Think about that we're going to do this in the span of a class, so in an hour probably. So I don't know. I sometimes I tend to do this. I tend to put my reference right in my shot, my screen. It's funny, but if you have it, printed, a tear somewhere, a picture of a tear, this thing, for example, and you know the tear by them very well because you worked enough for so long. But let's say you have a picture of her and a picture of an actual tear. It's funny, but it doesn't seem like it. But if you have it next to your computer, you have to turn. The way I see it, the way I feel it, is that I'm losing my concentration with my screen. Turning many times or having to find it in a stack of paper, it takes time away. So if time is of the essence, like they say, if time is a factor in this, probably if I because right now I don't have to move my head, I don't have to lose focus. I can put my headphones on at work and just go for it. I can see the tear, I can see material, I can see my model, and just execute it. So it's funny because sometimes clicks make a difference. Like you can save yourself in the process 1 or 2 clicks. It doesn't look like it, but towards the long run, it will add a lot of time. And probably this is an interesting way. I just wanted to show you another one of my ways of working, right? So sometimes I don't mind putting a little bit, it's simple, putting a plane and mapping a picture and another picture. Actually, here is the final shot. That's just for you guys, just to see. But at least just a simple tier. You can see that animators on their desk, they have mirrors either at the top or the bottom of their screen or next to it to see their expressions, and they say the dialogue, and they look at themselves and then they look at the computer. Well, this is the equivalent for this, probably, for us. And I have no doubt, I'm sure, I don't know, I haven't talked to an animator in a long time, but I'm pretty sure that they load video right inside the same scene nowadays, especially with the better video cards and all. So I think you will save time doing this thing. So this is an M Club tier. It leaves a trail of regular Maya particles. Nothing special. The trail, this is the exact same way I did it on the film. Okay, the trail of particles, I left it because the lighter used it. I believe what they did was they rendered the particles. He rendered the particles. I didn't have to. He rendered the particles in a certain color, red or whatever, and then they used that in comp to manipulate, and in the shader to manipulate the specular on that region. That's what you see. That's what you can see here. Okay, like it's wet. So when it's wet in something like this, then they just have higher specular values. I'm not simplifying their work. There's obviously a lot more going on, but in a nutshell, if I were to, do like simplification of all the things that are happening in that shader, then at the end of the day, to make it simple for you, then it's just specular highlights being augmented. Well, this is the same thing. I leave a trail that describes just the trajectory of this, and it's perfect. This tier could have kept going down, and the trail will continue. They render that, and they used it in comp. So there was no meshing like some people might think. And here it comes with the same concepts again, the same ideas. Don't overcomplicate your life. Okay, that day I went home at the same time. I managed to do many other things as well, not just this. If I would have gone to RealFlow, there would have been a pain in the ass. Actually, we didn't even use RealFlow in that movie. We did most of the water, 90% of the water on Maya, and then the rest in Naiad, which is now Bifrost. So going that route, then it would have been days for just a simple tier. It was proven when they actually did. There's another shot of Neytiri drinking water from a leaf when she's training Jake. That shot, the water was done in Naiad, and I think it lasted over a month and a half. And it's just a few drips running out her mouth. So So in my opinion, no, I just wanted to get this done. So a little ant cloth will do. We will use particle collisions, which we haven't used much in this portion of this FX Masters. Particle collision just to detect where the thing is running down the face, and we'll leave a trail right there and let it be handled by the professionals in that matter, being the lighters and the compers, to integrate all these things with her face. And it was successful, quite successful. You see it and you feel like a tear, and you know that she's crying, that she's sad. So mission accomplished, right? Cool. Let's go in and work on this thing. I'm going to keep this as a reference. Okay. Right, so I don't spend time doing basic stuff like creating a plane for each map. Then there they are. If you look at 6, simple stuff. This is actually nothing to do with effects. I will give you this avatar head, which I actually I didn't model it. I didn't steal it from Weta. No, this is for free on TurboSquid. So thank you to the guy who modeled it. This is not Neytiri. This looks more like Jake. But this is an artist's interpretation of what an avatar looks like. I just didn't want to use a human head. I wanted to try to give you something a bit better, right? So there it is. It's a pointy-ear guy. So I'll put this on the FTP. Along with this, I will put this basic scene. And why don't we actually do it? Well, instead of saying it, let's just upload it right away. because I don't want to put it with the effects. Remember that the last lesson was a special case because we had the issues with the rendering and all that. So I think it's best to let you struggle and let you figure it out. And if I give you my completed scenes, then it's just might as well sell you that instead of the course. All right, so I get here my zebras. Let me just go back up. Excellent. So I'm gonna name this for you. Let's just name it the same, but I'm just gonna add avatar head start. All right, and let's locate it quickly. Effects, Maya, projects, effects masters. I hope you're doing your project structure correctly. This is key. If you don't do this, then for shame, because this is gonna hurt even more at the end. All right, so let me just go in here. There you go. So I'm gonna drop that at the root level of the FTP. Excellent. Done. So there's your file, as promised. Done with the FTP, done with this, and I'm going to open this lesson 16. And here we are. Okay, cool. So there you go. Probably the texture, I might need to give it to you, the pictures, right? Now that I'm thinking, because those are not gonna go through. So let me just locate this, guys. And they are on my, okay. That's a bit of a pain, but no worries, we're gonna do that as well. All right, let me just quickly upload that. Yeah, because if you open this scene like this, then you're not gonna be able to see the pictures, and I think it's interesting to have them. So this is Japanese woman crying, should be on my downloads folder. Just bear with me 1 minute. All right. Japanese woman crying. There we go. And this one, it's called, let's see. God damn it, look at these names. 97B, hence. All right, let's see. 97B is right here, perfect. And I'm gonna drop it there. Well, there you go. So probably what we can do is just make a folder, right, to make it more organized here, the FTP for you. All right, so let me just make a folder, and we just call this avatar tier. And we're just gonna grab this one, and this one, and just dump it in there. Keep everything neat and organized. Now, for sure, you have everything you need. Cool. Okay, good. So we have the head, we have the thing. So what we're gonna do is keep this head as my render head. This is what I received from the animation department. Yes, this is not animated, but it doesn't matter. The technique is exactly the same. So here again, my render head is on a layer, right? Cool. I'm going to duplicate this guy because I'm not going to touch this one. I'm not going to touch. I'm just going to use it for rendering or for play blasting, right? To get my stuff approved. So I'm going to duplicate this guy. This is my avatar head, and this is going to be my emitter. Okay, emitter and colliding head. Very specific naming, right? Okay, so this guy, render head, you know, both on the same layer, that's normal. We can just grab this, we can put it in this layer here, and now we get the render head and my collision head. Cool. If you don't want this to, or you want to be able to hide them, no worries, put that in there, and we can just use this as reference images. Excellent. So that can be somewhere there. This little thing right here is just my basic, just a sphere. It's a tier. That's gonna be my tier. That's just a sphere. Nothing special, just a polysphere, as you can see right here. I gave it some more detail, but we can just go edit, delete by type, history, done. Okay, modify, free transformation, that's nothing. There's nothing else going on here. Okay, don't worry about that. That's just because I just deleted everything from the other scene that I had. But basically, this is what I have. This is my collision and emission head. So in this one, all the polygons that I can get rid of are going to be greatly appreciated in terms of speed. So I'm going to look at this from the front. All right, and I'm going to get rid of everything that I don't need. So I'm going to go to my faces, and I'm going to start actually by selecting everything. Okay, and then deselecting the stuff that I'm going to, I believe that will have interaction with the face. So I'm just going to be, for example, cleaning up, let's say, that much. Get rid of everything else, including what's behind. This is what I'm going to keep. If you don't delete the history, once you receive this model, let's say, then all the transformations will remain the same. So you keep the same deformations on the face. But for now, this is good for me. So remember, I have my render head and just a little patch, kind of like a Phantom of the Opera looking mask, right? There you go. All right, this is good. This is this little sphere. We're gonna call it tier. Tier Natiri, tier human are these reference images. Tier human, tier Natiri. Again, my eyes, my tier, avatar head, and my collision head. That's all I have in my scene. Beautiful. Next step is to help out this tier, because what's going to happen is that I'm going to make this a soft body. But this soft body is going to fall, it's going to slide through this surface, okay? And it's going to do its thing. If I let it fall right here, then half of it is going to fall down this way. Probably all of it will just fall down this way. So I'm going to make modifications to this model. I'm not a modeler, and I don't care. I don't want to be a modeler. I hate it. I'm just going to modify this as I please, because this is not going to be rendered. So I'm just going to make myself a little slide for this tier. So I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to grab some of the CVs that I need. And I'm going to do my thing, my way. I'm going to pull it out so it doesn't fall. And I'm also going to give it a little push. Remember that this thing is going to slide down. So you need to have some sort of surface to deform it first, to let it fall in the form itself, and then go down. Correct? So we'll see if this works like that. Try to avoid interpenetrations. You know, my cloth is okay with that, but you know, try to avoid it anyway. You're doing yourself a favor by doing that. So just lift it a little bit. Remember, I'm doing this tier a little bit bigger than it should be. It's okay. They will reduce it later for you if they need to. I'm also going to help myself by modifying this and make sure that it doesn't spill where it shouldn't. So I'm making sure that this tier goes where I want it to go. All right, something like that. Again, doesn't matter. I'm just making sure that it falls through this area right here. Cool. All right, next thing. Keep saving, because when you're working with mCloth, it could get tricky. Sometimes it could, act funny. And if in your case, because I don't want to make more clutter on my computer, but in your case, versioning up your files is not a bad idea either. Next thing is making this into mCloth. All right. We have used it briefly in this course, and we continue to use it briefly, and we'll continue to use it the same way. Meaning that we're going to use presets for it. We're going to begin from presets, and then we're going to tweak, if needed, a couple of things. So, mCloth has a very cool feature that is volume conservation. It will help you simulate close objects such as for example, actually the even presets call it water balloon, beach ball. Okay, so things of that nature that are soft, closed, spherical. Well, doesn't have to be spherical, but closed objects. So that way you can have things look like inflatable animals, or something that you poke it from the right side and the left side gets affected, right? That kind of thing. So it actually tracks pressure, air pressure inside the object. You get inflated or deflated. Very interesting stuff. That's probably what we're going to use. So I'm going to grab my tear, my little sphere, and I'm going to stay in effects actually. I'm going to go to end cloth and I'm going to create end cloth. Simple. We've seen that already. You hit play on this thing, and as you can imagine, this is just going to fall. Remember that it's governed by the nucleus solver that we have right here. Nothing special. If you want to make the tear and the little face collide, it's very simple. Grab your face, your collision face, right? That's why I put this, actually I just realized that I made a typo here. I don't like it. Colliding face. That's what I made it very clear in the name. We're going to emit and collide out of this geometry. We're not going to emit the tear, but we're going to emit the trail, right? Okay, so you grab it and you go to end cloth, and you're going to create what is called a passive collider. Everything being passive colliders are objects that are going to be part of the end cloth deformation if there is a contact, but the end cloth is not going to be able to move it. So they're going to stay static as they are. Remember that when you're dealing with, for example, rigid bodies, and you get active rigid bodies and passive rigid bodies, if you don't know that, go back to the FX Power User program, please. Active rigid bodies are the ones that are actually being affected by forces and they move. And passive are just for collisions, things that just don't going to move at all. So in this case, passive collider is this phase. Something to clear up. Huh? When I mean they're not going to move, meaning they're not going to move thanks to dynamics. They're going to move because of the animation, the deformation they already have. That's fine. But when the tear hits the face is not going to move. That's what I'm trying to say. Just to be clear. So you select your thing and you go to passive collider. Done. Then you get an end rigid node right here. Each object, the sphere and the colliding face, are going to have their own collision properties. Stickiness and friction and bounciness, okay? Just like you have when you collide with particles, just different names. When you have colliding objects with particles, then you get resilience and you get friction. And you also get a max distance of collision, right? Like a bias thing. You get the same thing in here, just with fancier names, that's all. So right now you have a piece of cloth and a collider. So if you save your thing, then you're gonna get this, which is normal. At the moment, there is no pressure tracking, there is nothing. But at least it starts to work. Here it goes. At least you get something. It's not a sliding tear on the surface of the face, actually falling. It's all funky, but it works quickly, right? 2 minutes. If I didn't speak so much, then it will be a couple of minutes. Actually, what 2 minutes? Less than a minute, you get this thing going. Done. Cool. That's fine. Of course, it's not really looking like a tear yet. Yeah, I get all that. That's no problem. We're just gonna grab this, and we're gonna get away from the basic numbers that you have here. We're gonna use right away a preset. And the preset that I'm gonna be using, I believe, is the water balloon. I think it's kind of like it, you know. And remember my idea of simplifying things into, complicated shots into simpler things. At the end of the day, what is this? A tear or a drop. If I magnify it and I amplify the size, then it is just a volume, right? A volume of something. I don't need real flow to calculate pressure, form, and tension, and have to mesh it, or who cares? Who goes into that? That's crazy, going that route. At the end of the day, it's just a little something, a little blob, okay, that just needs to deform in a kind of way that looks like a tear. Always assuming what I told you at the beginning of the lesson, that is the comper and a light are going to come and they're going to do their thing, and they're going to actually reduce what you put in. So I'm not going to complicate too much. If you get a little couple of pointy edges, at the end of the day, they just render this as with reflections and refractions, and I know what it's going to look like. So easy. That's very simple stuff. So I'm going to just replace with this preset. This preset has an explanation down here. What's most important is down here when you get the pressure tab, okay, it activates volume tracking model. So now Maya is going to try to understand the volume inside the sphere and try to maintain it based on numbers that you have here. Pressure damping, okay, how much pressure you might actually, lose or are able to lose. Starting pressure is 0, meaning that it's going to stay as it is. If you were to increase that number, the tier of the sphere will get bigger. Pump rate is you can actually inject air as the simulation goes in or subtract it. Air tightness, okay, I believe is the naming tells me, okay, if this is how the pressure inside this object could be. How incompressible it is. So it's not only the air inside, but probably the quality of the air and actually the quality of the material. So is this going to resist to be compressed or not? And if the object has any holes, this is a sphere created here, but it should be close together. But sometimes there are models that have little holes. And if a modeler, is not aware that it's going to be used in a simulation, or if he has a model for simulation and just leaves holes somewhere, even if they're little, if you don't activate this, the thing will deflate on its own. It could be what you need. If you're doing an inflatable castle, like a bouncy castle, those things have vents around the side. I think they just they expose the air as you put more air in it. So I believe that's how it works. So yes, you could have holes and just uncheck this. Because if you keep it checked and you're doing a bouncy castle and you keep pumping air in it, they have little pumps next to it, always on. So they kind of balance, I believe, the amount of air that comes in with the air that comes out. If you are doing something like it for an effect, and you keep this checked, then it's not gonna blow up, but it's actually gonna blow up. It's gonna keep inflating itself until it can't hold anymore. So this is quite important. In this case, I want it to be closed. I know it's closed because again, it's a sphere from here, so no biggie. Right, save this thing. This is what, and we're gonna see what it does right off the bat. And this one starts to get annoying. Oh, up to this stage is actually cool. I like it. There you go. That's, to me, it's a tier. It looks a bit funky. We can edit it a little bit, and we need to play now with the friction because, probably the topology of this face is a straight face. So it tends to separate and just fall. But it's deforming and it's keeping the volume. It's different. You see that from what we had before. Damn it! I hit the playback. Go backwards. Play backwards. There you go. Here comes again. Right now, it's just we need to find a way for the surface and the sphere to kind of attach, or kind of has some sort of friction or stickiness, so it stays in here. So I think, but now I think it's good. It's deforming. Remember something as well. That the further you get from the shot, the better it will look. So let's pick a camera as well. So let's create ourselves, as usual, a camera. Let's look through it. Let's frame everything. And okay, let's frame using the render face. She was somewhere. Not show you like that. I'll show you this. Sorry. She was somewhere there, right? Okay, so that's my position of my camera. View, select camera. Remember to hit Shift E, Shift W to keyframe this thing and lock it. That's actually what's gonna be my angle, right? So it's good to have, you can see the tier is born, probably a little bit too much to the left, but you can actually, I leave those little details to you. In this case, I just want to give you the information on how to simulate it, and I'm going to let you run it from one eye. Hopefully, if you want, try from both. Try one and then another. It's up to you. Remember what I say, the basic stuff is what gets you a certificate, but I don't want basic, I want more. So, okay, anyway, here's my tear coming out of the tear duct. It's taking the right, probably, you see, we probably have to change a little bit, deform a little bit more our little slide so it comes out like this. And it's good if it hits this bit in here and then slides down the side of the nose, because there's more surface there, more curves, so it can slow it down even more. I think that's what we need to do, because right now it's just free falling. It's touching, because as you see what's deforming. Okay, cool. I think it's good. We're good position. Very quickly, you see. All right, cool. I'm gonna hide my render cam and my render face. I'm going back to my perspective view, and I'm going to try to modify this slide a little bit. Let me just frame it here better. Okay. I'm gonna grab then the CVs, and you will do it better than me because you will have more time than me to do it. I'm just gonna try to erase this and this. And I'm gonna probably give it a bit more space in here so it drops. All right, that could be. I'm gonna remember that because we're not rendering this model, we can do whatever we want to it. It's no problem. So I'm just gonna model this away. I'm gonna help it choose this path. I'm gonna make it a bit harder for it to go this other way. All right, and I'm also gonna move it. All right, so hopefully we'll just go into this area here. It will come out. Let's just keep making obstacles. So it chooses to go to the other way. Now you will do this one more time. Something like that. I'm just gonna put this to, god damn it, I'm gonna make, so I hate modeling. You could use the sculpting tool. I'm not gonna talk about modeling actually, at all. But you know that there's a sculpting tool that you can just push and pull. The CV is easier than this, and see me suffer here. I just hate it so much. It's awesome. All right, cool. I'm gonna make it a little bit trickier for it to choose the other way. Let's see. Let's run it from here. If it's an interpenetration, it might act funny, but I think it's okay. It's a little bit bouncy, but all right. We can use forces. We can use many things if we want to. So I can see that it's still, I wish it would go a little bit further that way. So I'm gonna make it even trickier for you to choose this path. Go away, like that. There is a separation, okay, from the collision. We're gonna fix that in a minute. So it's not floating, it's colliding, but just to cover their back, NCloth will choose a collision distance a little bit bigger than it should. For something so precise like this, then it's probably better to reduce it. Because you will notice it. If you render it like that, there will be a shadow, right, or something funny there. All right, let's see. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Like I said, I'm gonna let you deal with this a bit differently or in more time. But I think it's okay. Let me just hide my collision face. Okay, cool. All right, so we have something going roughly in the right area where we want to. Now, just bring back our collision face. Then on the collision part, then you can grab your NCloth, and then you have right here collisions, and you have to choose if you want to collide, and well, collide definitely. You want to collide with the face, but I don't know if you want to self collide. It's up to you. If it's something that you're not going to notice, then turn it off, or at least turn it off for testing. Everything just moves a lot faster. All right, so here it goes. All right, so it's doing its thing. Actually, you can see that it's looking like it looks like a tear. The problem is that, it loses friction right here. So let's fix that. First of all, let's fix the collision distance so it gets closer to the face. So we have something in here called, let me just 1 second look for it. Self-collision width scale. That's just for self-collision, but we have to turn it off at the moment. Collision strength, bounce, and stickiness. There's no bouncy, okay? It just looks like it's bouncing because of the quality of the air pressure and all that. We're gonna deal with that in a minute. This is to paint collision properties. If we select the face, then we have a thickness of 0.048. So we're gonna put that to 0.2. Sorry, 0.02. Let this fall, and you will see that it's gonna be closer already. Okay, you can probably stop it, and you can see that the gap is a little bit smaller. We'll reduce that even more. Don't put it to 0 because I think for the solver it's going to be trickier to calculate. Lower it a little bit more. I think it's getting there. It's not bad at all. I mean, on the long run, if you look at it through the camera, you're not going to notice it. It's just to minimize any weird shadows that could appear. I think this is fine. We could try something even smaller. We haven't saved. Sometimes you sense that the crash is coming. All right, so here it goes. All right, so see, it's almost on the surface. I think it's more than enough. Good. As I said before, you get collision properties from both, actually, from the actual geometry, the passive collider, and the plot itself. You have to balance them both. Right now, this tear has a friction of 0.6, no stickiness, and the face has a friction of 0.1 and no stickiness. You play with these values. If you want to go crazy, put 1. That'll be very sticky. Let's see. And probably the tear will just stop. Let's see. And it does, you see? So that describes the material. Another thing that I noticed now that you do, I tend to go, remember that I tend to go into a high number right away just to know my limit. I know 1 is not going to work. And just turn it down from there is easier than going up, in my opinion. I don't know. If you start going from stickiness from 0 all the way to 0.8 in 0.1 increments, it's going to take you longer. At least I know that the 1 is not going to move this thing. I'll probably try 0.5 and see where it goes, and then find my balance. I was saying that now that I see that this thing is not sliding, I can see how the drop behaves in terms of how much energy it has and all. So you can see that it feels like a soft water balloon. Well, the name tells you that's actually fine. So basically what I can do as well is grab my tear. We'll deal with the friction in a minute with the stickiness, but I'm going to go back to my pressure here, actually to my mass, and I'm going to play a little bit with numbers because this has to do with scale of the scene and everything. I don't want to go into very specific technical measurements. I'm just going to try numbers. I see, okay, I have 10. What happens if I have 1? Because this is a tear. It's not a big water balloon. Let's see how it changes the behavior. You see? So it goes a bit slower. Actually looks good. Okay, that's a mass of 1. We'll try it in a minute. We let it go. I mean, try meaning I just reduce this value. I'm gonna keep it control here and play with a couple more things. Pressure damping, start pressure, pump rated, tightness. So I think this is okay. You could try. We could try actually a little bit of damp actually, just to see because I see it a bit bouncy. Let's see. Okay. right, it's a lot. Incompressibility, we have it at 20. Let's lower it to, no, sorry, let's lower it to 10, because right now it's fighting to be compressed. This tier actually should flatten out a bit more. Okay, play with numbers. For example, we had a mass of 10. What happens if we have a mass of 20? I think that's like I said at the beginning of the first N club portion, the first time we mentioned N club. You learn N club by trying a few values and understanding a little bit about the scene of the scale, scale of your scene. I'm sorry, and what certain values do. And I find that the best school of this is just to try this kind of stuff, right? So if I start with 10, I go to 1, what happens? If I go to 20, what happens? Okay, if I go to 200 or 100, what happens? All right, so you can see that you have, well, certain different, some results, some changes in here. The mass is definitely important. Okay, so go back to 10. Also here it will tell you a little bit of what you can, how you can tweak it. Let me see. It has no damping. It has a moderate stretch resistance. Okay, initial balloon state and attention which is achieved by making the blah blah blah. Okay, well, you can read these things a little bit more. I'm going to lower the stickiness to 0.5 and see how this falls. Okay, so it's going to fall slowly. If it's going to fall, it might take a little bit longer. I find that it's a bit still too big probably, so we need to try. Let's try incompressibility of one. I'm sorry, let's see how it goes. It should flatten out a lot more. All right. I can see that my stickiness is still a lot because it's stopping this tier from falling. Let's look at it from the camera. But it looks good, you see? It looks huge because obviously we're close to the face, right? We're working close by, like zooming into this tier. But you can kind of see the size comparison and it's okay. And it has to be a little bit round. I know that, like I said, if you zoom in and you look at it from very, very close, then you probably think, well, this looks like crap. Why you? No, I mean, I know because I've already done these things and I know what I'm talking about. So I always zoom out, always look through the camera, think about it. Don't be told little about the numbers and all that. Let it fall. It takes time. Okay, this is just you need to tweak it. The moment that it's gonna fall. I gave myself 10 seconds on this, so she's just looking at it. Eyes go watery. And then just the tear falls. Once it falls, it will just roll down the face. Right now, we're just actually holding it in there. It might be falling or not. We actually have to come closer and look. Because it could be that my stickiness is too much. But we could keyframe it as well. So right now, it's actually in a nice rest state. Okay, so let's say I find my tier, well, it's okay right now. I'm just going to keyframe, just to test. I'm going to keyframe the stickiness. I'm going to keyframe it right here. I'm going to let it be a little bit longer because I can see that it's moving. So I'm putting a keyframe just in case, but I can see that this tier is actually moving. Right now, here, for example, I'm going to lower it to 0.4. I don't want to lower it too much because let's see what it does here. There it goes. So 0.4 makes it move. Okay, so I'm going to run it one more time because the change happens in here. So from 0.5 to 0.4, I'm sorry. So let's let it be. It just settles. It's not too far-fetched to think, well, if you're looking at the tear duct, okay, the actual tear comes out of the tear duct, starts to form, and when it's heavy enough, it just falls. It's actually what's happening here, in a way. Okay, it's just holding itself, it's just getting into the right shape, it's accumulating. Let's say she blinks, or let's say that it gets big enough, heavy enough on the down this down section here, it will just fall on its own thing. So let's let it be. We need to look at it close by and then just time it. That's something you're gonna have to time with animation, depending on what your expression is telling you, what your director is saying, what she's doing. You keyframe it like I'm doing. I'm just kind of releasing it slowly. Don't let it fall too fast because it just might get disconnected from the face. So let's see what it does in this case. Right now it's lowering from 0.5 to 0.4. If you can actually see it, I hope you can see it, that the tear is actually starting to fall. If we're running out of time, then we have to make it more noticeable, but I think it's going. And for testing, it's okay. You can just choose a different section of the animation to do it. Probably, okay, it's not enough. Okay, so I'm going to put this 0.3 at this stage. See what it does. And off she goes. Okay, cool. So I'm going to rewind it, run it one more time. You have to be patient with these things, but we haven't been doing this for even an hour, even with all my talking. So it's actually pretty fast. You can run many iterations on this. And that's a good point that we haven't talked about, iterations. When you're presenting this type of shots, cover your back and show a few iterations. And even if something looks bad, show it. Because something that looks bad makes the other one look better. Yeah, that's a little bit of advice that I'm giving you. So always show something that you don't like, the one you think they will like, and the one you really like, at least. Let them speak for themselves. And presentation in these things is key as well, even for your supervisors. Something like that, I will make my 3 or 4 play blast, okay? And I will combine them into one video, all 4 right next to each other. Make their life easier. They will love you. They will love you for it. They will give you more responsibility, more cooler shots. You're saving them time. They don't have time to open 4 and put one next to each other and then compare, or open one and then open another. They forget what the other one looks like. So try to make their life easier. So combine them all 4 into one, what they call the contact sheet kind of thing. So arrange them in a way that they can actually see all versions easily and let them choose, but always show the one they don't like. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here because it's about to fall and we're running out of time. So I'm just going to give myself more time because I really want to see what it's going to do, and then just tweak it again a little bit. All right, so let's see. It's falling, it's falling, it's falling. Here it goes. It's always good to every now and then take a look. Yeah, I went to this side. I'll leave it up to you to push it a bit more here if you want to. Okay, I don't care. It's falling. Let's see. Because sometimes we might need to increase the stickiness even more. Okay, you gotta be elongated. And you got stuck. Okay. A bit too much. I'm gonna go back a couple of steps, okay, and I'm going to get rid of this animation and use the 0.3 number that let it fall on its own and see what it does. Let's see. Because sometimes you see what's getting stuck in some areas, and that could be a problem. So let's just let it be on its own. With a stickiness of 0.3 that we didn't have at the beginning, when we started we had nothing, so it just fell. It's important to make it sticky because that's what's going to control it here. You see the 0.3 without keyframes is actually starting to fall what it's supposed to. I can bring this back. Let's look at this from my camera. Open my render view, hide this one, but I'm going to keep it on for just because we're simulating. So let's see. Let's look at it from the actual camera view. Okay, it's actually pretty interesting because it takes its time. It's building up and then just falls. I think it's great. Beautiful. Again, you see I'm removing complications, okay? Got a little bit big in there. It's still getting stuck. That could be because of an interpenetration. Actually, I don't like that it gets separated from the face. So what I'm going to do, because we could have some, back and forth with this for longer than needed for a lesson like this. Let's open the one that I have. I'm going to save this one. And I'm going to show you something cool. Let's open the one that I have already, which is, let me just find it, avatar tier, this one. Yep. This one is this one, the one that I created the play blast from. It already has the collision particles. We're going to do them afterwards. I just want to get the values that I'm using for collision and the values that I'm using for tension. That's I don't think it's worth our time spending just tweaking numbers. Let me just select my tier. Okay, there is my tier. Let's see what values are we using. We're using the water balloon, the same. Pressure damping is 0, start pressure 0, pump rate 0, air tightness 0.9. So I'm letting it lose a little bit of air. That's good actually, because I don't want mine so thick. So let me just frame it here. Okay, and incompressibility to 0.2. That's not bad. On my collision, I got the usual basic stuff in here. Friction of 0.6, no stickiness. But I got my collision phase, which is this one. And I'm using a friction of 0.3 and a stickiness of 0.1. What I was going to say about the cool stuff is that you can save presets. So I get my collision phase selected. So I'm just going to grab presets. I'm going to save and rigid presets. And I'm going to call it avatar collision head, let's say. And I save this preset. I can grab this sphere and I make my own preset. So I'm going to save this. Sorry. Grab my polysphere, okay, my tier. I'm going to save my cloth. Let me just select this. Okay, I'm going to save end cloth preset and I'm going to call it avatar tier and save it. That way I can go back to my scene that I'm working with you guys, the new one, this one, and just assign those values much better. It's something that you can do when you pass it on. If you do multiple tiers, for example, you do one tier for testing. If you're happy with it, save the preset, and any other geometry that you assign that has the same dimensions, it can have the same preset. So it's easier. You don't have to start poking numbers or writing down in a notepad or stuff like that, right? So this is my collision phase. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to have the preset and I'm going to, 1 second, this is not end cloth, this is an end rigid. Okay. Here's my avatar colliding head, replace it, and it changes these numbers to the ones I had there. You see how easy it is? Okay, here's my tier. I'm going to select my end cloth and I'm going to use presets, avatar tier, replace it. You see how cool it is? Let's see if it works. I didn't check the nucleus solver. I don't know if I moved, if I changed the gravity on that. Let's see. If it's acting a bit weird or too different, then it could be because I also tweaked the gravity values. So let's see. I'm looking at it from the camera, but we can go closer if you want to. You can see that it's having a better shape because I changed the incompressibility to 0.2, but also the air tightness to 0.9. So this thing gets thinner a little bit as you move through time. So start to kind of almost like losing a little bit of air inside. Because I wanted to get thinner and thinner. Because remember that the way this actually works is that the steer is moving down the face and it's leaving a trail of his own matter. So it's actually getting the volume of it, okay, it's getting smaller. But this works like a charm, actually. Looking very good. It's looking like a tier. And it's starting to slide down the face right on time. Those were the sweet spot values. To find that sweet spot, you might spend time, and actually it's quite boring to see someone just plugging numbers here and there. Especially if you're doing a different model, different face, you might have different values than me. The topology, right? If there's someone like me that has big cheekbones, and I have the eyes kind of like deeper in my socket, so I have more air. My tears will fall differently than yours, so it could get tricky, right? So here it goes. Beautiful. You see there's no interpenetrations, nothing getting stuck. It looks good. Okay, if you look at it from the camera view, it looks like a tear. For the love of God, it's actually great. Very quickly. And the next part is easy, man. Leaving the trail is the easiest part. Alright, cool. So I'm gonna go in here. Let's look at it a little bit longer. And here goes my tear. Look at it. It also has a tear-like shape, but natural. That's great. Okay, beautiful. So it's sliding down the surface, you can see. So still touching, right? I'm flying off. Because he has a very, straight face. There's not really a lot here to slow it down the tear. That's what I'm saying. If you manage to push it a bit more towards the nose, then you'll get, you see hers, it has a curve here. That slows down the tear, so that's good. Alright, so this thing is working quite well. You see, it reaches the cheekbones, slows down, it gets thinner, right? You can see it from here. Don't worry about this stuff going in. This actually, in my opinion, is actually beneficial for a lighter because it will give them interesting reflections and refractions. Something very subtle, but it works. So don't worry about this. Again, other one will go, wow, but you have interpenetration, are you crazy? How can you put that in a film? I did. I put it in a film. And you loved it. You saw it in the movies and you believed it. So shut up, right? That's what I would do. All right, cool. This works. I'm happy with it. You can go ahead and geocache it or Alembic cache it, whatever you like. I'm not going to cache it here for now. There's no need to. Once you hand this over in production, then you have your own exporting tools. So we'll export this geometry so the lighter doesn't have to deal with dynamics. That's fine. It's something that simulates really quickly in this scene, so I don't really care. What I'm going to do next is just the trail. And the trail is simple. I'm going to grab my actual tear. I'm going to emit particles from it. Emit from object. You'll see me this 100 times doing this. I'm sorry. Surface. I'm just going to put my rate to 300. I don't know. Hit create. I'm going to grab my emitter and I'm going to give it no speed. I'm going to grab my particles and my sphere and I'm going to gold the particles to them. So go 100%, hit create. I'm also going to grab my particles and this, if you want to differentiate them, this is going to be my trail emitter. These particles, because they're gold, I'm going to go right away, and you'll see me doing this before. Gold U, gold V, parent U, parent V, add it, grab my emitter, activate need parent U and parent V. This is from the first lessons of this program and the effects power user as well. Nothing special. Go into creation and you say gold U equals parent U. You know what this is for, right? Gold V equals parent V. So they're born whatever they like and they stay there. Hit create. Easy stuff. Amount of particles, the more particles you have, the more precise the calculation of collisions will be. So it's up to you. I'm going to start with 1,000. No, actually with 2,000. 2,000 particles. And here they are. Actually, if you want to see them, damn it, with this keyboard, it does that to me. I hit 4 and it doesn't take it, but I don't care. I go to shading, I go to wireframe. And I'm going to grab this, guys, and I'm going to make them spheres for you to see a little bit better. And I'm going to try this. Okay, something like that. Just so you can spot them quickly. Also, I'm going to emit a lot more particles so they come right away, all of them. Excellent. I'm doing this because Maya, you cannot collide, detect collisions like that between two surfaces. So this is an old technique, but it's so simple and so powerful that I actually always use it. All right, cool. So I get my particles in here. Yeah, I'm going to have them collide as well with the face. Sorry, I'm going to grab my particles one more time. I'm going to collide them with the face. So you select the particles in the geometry, you go to M particles, and you go to make collide, which right here, there you go. Hit create. And the problem is, if you haven't seen the effects power user program, then go back and look at the example with the sword, the things that I have there where I talk about these things. But basically, if I hit play right now, the particles will collide with the face and they will kind of get stuck. And you will have some really funky results. I'm going to show you the results, but first I'm going to save in case something goes funny and crashes. But you get some weird shit like this. You get the particles moving, and they're fighting between the goal weight of one and the friction from the collision. And you start getting this kind of stuff. The particles that kind of start acting funny and vibrating, and because they're going to be the emitters of my trail, I don't want them to do this kind of weird shit. And I said 2 bad words in a row, and that's it, no more. You don't want them to do this bad stuff. So what you do in this case is grab a trick, because you need the collision to be detected, but you don't want them to change the behavior of these particles. You just want to be able to collide, and that's it. Detect the collision, but don't move. So if that's the case, then you're going to grab the resilience, okay, which is their bounciness. And right now it's at 1. If you put it to -1, that's a pretty nifty trick. And this means that we'll calculate the collision, but no motion is going to happen on the particles. Right now they're just going to jump back to where they belong. But the collisions are still being calculated. The particles know when they hit. So that's a pretty neat trick. Again, go back on the level 1 of the effects power user program. Look for the example with the sword, the example with the footprints of the alien and the human. Okay, you will see what I mean. All right, so keep saving that. So I get my collisions working, okay, from my trail emitter particles. I'm just gonna grab my particles here, and I'm gonna go and do a collision event, which is called. Also explained in the first level, basic stuff. Here's my trail emitter. This is going to emit particles. It's going to be a random number of particles between, I don't know, 1 and 5. The spread of 0.5, I don't care about this. Inherit the velocity, well, I don't mind, I can change that later, and hit create event. What this does is creates a new particle system. Then we can just name this tier trail. These guys will have no conserve, nothing. I just don't want them to move. I just want them to stay. Conserve to 0 means it's not going to move. Inherit factor, okay, inherit velocity, nothing. I just want it to be born and stay. That's all I want. These particles are going to make them also spheres for you to see. I have right here my, let's just lower the size because I know they're going to be big. Excellent. And that's all. Save it. And what's going to happen now is that when the particles of the tier, so many things happening in layered, right? This is what I wanted to do, everything at once, so you can see how all these systems kind of integrate within each other. So you get, in one level, you get the deformation of the sphere thanks to nCloth. At the same time, the same deformed geometry is emitting, is covered with particles that are detecting collision, but nothing else, just detecting it. If a collision happens, a new particle is being emitted, a new particle system is being emitted. Each one of the particles of the sphere that is hitting this geometry is emitting between 1 and 5 particles. And basically, you just let the simulation run. The trail, the trail left by the tier, the tier trail, there are particles that just are born where they belong. Where the collision happens, that's it. There's no forces being applied. There's no more collisions. There's nothing else going on. And they just remain in that area. If the face is moving too much, then we'll probably have to gold it to this area as well. So wherever they're born, they just stay there. If the face moves and deforms, thanks to facial expressions, then yeah, you will have them. But in this case that is static, I can just leave them like that. And those are the particles that the lighter is going to use. It's going to render them over the face and use that in comp as like a whatever mask or something. I don't know. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and run it, and you can see that the particles are being born already. I'm going to color them green like I did with the other one just to see them easier. So to color them all green is a color per object, and green is set to 1. That way I can go like this, and go like this. I got all my stuff running, and here's my trail. Just let them run. And I apologize to you because I know that all the magic from the films is going to hell once we start learning more and more. And you know, you probably saw this or more stuff that we're going to be doing in the future, and you see them and you know, imagine probably more than what it actually is. But my job is to make it look simple to you. My job is that you see films now and then you say, I know how to do this, I know how to do that. Simple, 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 simple. One issue you can see right here that is happening. It's happening at the beginning, you can see, and then nothing else. That's normal. And easily fixable, as always I say. It looks like a brain, you see? Easily fixable. This happens because even though the spheres are big, this is just a representation, visual representation of for us to see it easier. So these guys, right? These particles, I made them big. I can make them bigger. Doesn't mean that the particles are bigger for the collision. The collision is calculated on the surface. On the surface. So because there is a gap between the collision of the geometry and the particles, sorry, once again, there is a gap between the end cloth and the collision object. Remember that we had to leave a little gap. It means that the particles are not colliding. They're not touching this geometry. It happened here because it's the first point of impact, and the end cloth goes all deformed and goes funky, goes through it. So it's fine. It happens here, but it doesn't happen anywhere else. It's easily fixable. It's a little, well, everything is a cheat, but it's a little trick that you can do here. You can go and offset these particles a little bit from the surface. So they're born, okay, in different ranges. Right now they're all born on top of it. If I just grab these particles and put them back to what they are, which are points, this is how the system calculates. And you can easily see there is a big gap between the particle and the geometry. Of course, it's not going to be emission. What I need to do is just keep my tier as it is, but have the particles being born away from the surface a little bit. You can use max distance, but it's going to look weird. The proper way to do it is to use this goal weights and objects tab. And there's an attribute here called goal point normal. Because I use this, instead of max distance. Max distance is considered as a sphere, so it's not going to be correct. The way that what I want is just to take the normal on the surface that is being deformed on every frame, and take that normal. That normal will change every frame as well, and then push the particles in that direction. That's actually what this is for. I used it to solve one of you guys' issues on the group, and I promised that I was going to mention that in some class. Here's my promise. So here's the thing. Goal point normal, you create that attribute. What this does is just create the attribute. Open the channel down here. Goal weight normal 1, okay? And all you need to do in here is just go on creation and give it some sort of distance. Okay, so goal point normal is going to be a random number between 0 and let's say 1. I don't know if 1 is going to be enough. And I'm going to grab this. It should be enough to do it on creation. Let's see. Now the particles are moved a little bit. So, okay, let's see. Let me just go and put them back to spheres. And let's redo the simulation. Frame 1. Okay. If you're not sure if it's working, then we need to go in and increase it. That's the easiest way, right? Break it and then see if it works. Okay, I don't see it. What I will do is grab then my, 1 second in here, give me just a minute. Input geometric point, go away normal. Yeah, I'm just looking for another attribute on here. 1 second. Okay, so I have goal weight. Okay, goal offset. That's what we're going to be using then. The goal offset combined with the goal normal. The goal offset is the distance that we determine. Remember that we used it for the example with the birds, probably with the predators, but definitely with the birds, to give the thickness. Remember that we had the emitter as a plane, and we wanted this flock of birds to have a certain height. We don't want all the birds flying at the same height, remember? So we used goal offset in that opportunity. Goal offset was responsible for pushing these particles from the goal surface away. But in that case, being a plane, it was kind of okay. This being a spherical object, we need to use also the normal, especially because it's being deformed. So we're going to combine both. We're going to grab the goal offset, we're going to add it, and then we're going to say that the goal offset, okay, so the goal offset is down here. We're going to grab this, and the goal offset is going to be, let's say, down here, equal to this attribute down here. And actually, we can do it even easier. We can try it like this. Let's just copy this attribute. We say that it's equal to that, and try. Let's just try this first. Okay, let's see how it goes. Okay, now you can see that it's working. Let me just go back to wireframe. And they went nuts, right? Okay, so it's pushing them in one direction. Okay, so what we can do now is try a few things, because it's pushing them in a straight line. That's not what I want. First of all, it's too much. So let's just reduce that to 1, the distance. Okay, it doesn't like it. There is a syntax error somewhere. Oh, sorry, I put this bunch of 4s in there. Okay, so reduce the distance to 1. Go 1 frame forward. Okay, so that's 1 unit. That's a lot. Now what we can do is try this friend function. Okay, let's try this. Perfect. Why is friend and not rand? I don't know if I mentioned this in this course. Random, this one that we have used so far, it generates just a random number. Okay, in this particular case, between 0 and 1. If you do SPH randoms, friend, the SPH is for spherical, it's a spherical random number, meaning that it's a vector. And this is a sphere, right? And even when it gets deformed, it's still being considered as a sphere. So what you need is a random number in all 3 axes to be able to manipulate them and place them in this area. Of course, this is magnified too much. Now we can just go in and bring it into range. 0.1, probably too much still, but you can see what's happening here. So my detection of collision detection is a lot more natural. There are some on the surface, and they're all different thicknesses, so I think it's interesting. Because it's going to be deforming, some areas are going to be lower than others. I believe it's interesting to have it this way. Obviously not to 0.1. Well, let's just try 0.04. Depends on the scale of your scene. More accurate. Depends on how much precision you want, and you probably have to increase the number of particles, but this is very fast to calculate. So especially now that are being placed randomly around the sphere, then I think it's better to have more particles. Okay, so that's about right. Remember that these guys are not spheres. I put them as spheres, but they're considered points. They're calculated as points. I think they're too far. It's going to start to look weird, so let's just cut this by half. Rewind and hit play. Okay, that's more accurate. We have to run it and see. 4,000 particles, I don't think is enough. I'm just going to put 12,000 particles to have more precision, to have a thicker trail as well. Okay, I think this works. First of all, let's save this thing because there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of calculations going, but it's quite fast actually. You let it run, thinking that you have a cloud simulation and particles being gold and collisions being calculated and particle emission based on collisions as well. So everything is actually good. If this is distracting, I'll leave it to you for you to run right now. But this becomes distracting, then no worries. You can just grab. Don't hide these particles, right? Don't hide the trail because if you hide it, doesn't get calculated. I wouldn't even put it on a layer. I will just probably do a simpler thing. I just do opacity per object. Okay. And make sure that you load all your attributes. And then you have opacity, you can put it to 0. So that way you don't worry about it. Don't select them. Let them run and you can see that the trail is actually very precise. If you notice that the trail is getting ahead of your sphere or something, it could be because your distance, the distance that you're using on the spherical random number is too much. But I believe actually that it's very thick. This is interesting. It has to be like this because when they render that, you don't want to see any holes because if they're using that in comp, they want a solid color. It's like a mask almost, a three-dimensional mask, right? All right, so let's let this run, but let's go through our camera now. Let's fix our stuff. Get ready for the final. Collision particle layer. There we go. Reference images. Let's put everything pretty. All right. And let's continue letting this fall. So assignment, now you have the files on the FTP for the head, for the pictures as a reference or as an inspiration. Minimal requirements, get this thing looking just like it. But hopefully you do something better, something with more time and more energy. You can do more tiers, one after the other if you want to. It's the same technique. So there it goes. Everything is working. You get your trail working. That's perfectly fine. So let's let it run a little bit longer before I say goodbye. But I think it's good. It's definitely interesting how it looks. Do some testing and share it because I want to share something on Facebook. I haven't shared anything from you guys in a while, and this will be interesting. And people loved it when I put this on the promotional material. There we go. That's my trail of tears. Excellent. So first avatar effect done. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. I hope you get excited. You can see that you can start working on films very soon. And I hope you do. So with that, I'm going to pause it. My simulation. Everything is great. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next class. Goodbye.